Every NFL team, even the Carolina Panthers, who fired their head coach after starting out with a 1-10 record, entered the 2023 regular season with one goal in mind, and that was to win the Super Bowl. And while that goal in itself is very simple, the path to winning a Super Bowl is much easier said than done, especially in today's NFL. And in today's video, we're going to break down why winning in today's league is almost impossible. There are countless variables and moving pieces that have to go right in order to get a singular win, let alone double-digit wins in one regular season. And think about it for a second. In a playoff game, you are a receiver dropping a pass, or an offensive lineman not knowing a snap count or mistiming a snap count, from your quarterback getting absolutely drilled and potentially ending your season right then and there. There are several angles we're going to discuss in today's video, including finances, talent on the roster, and much, much more. And there is a lot to dive into in today's video. Now let's begin. And we are starting today's video by looking at a few situations across the league and thoroughly examining each team and situation. And we'll start with the San Francisco 49ers. When this team is on, and they've been on in pretty much every game except their 3-game hiccup between weeks 6 through 8, this team looks damn near unbeatable. And I don't think it would surprise anybody if you told them now that the 49ers would go on to win the Super Bowl. But when you break down their roster, as pessimistic as this may sound, I really think it's this year or bust for them. There's a lot of factors that go into winning a singular championship, and health is of course one of them, and not only health but youth for that matter too. And when you have as star-studded of a roster as the 49ers have, it's a pretty big deal if one of the guys, meaning one of the Trents, Nick Bosa's, CMC's, or Debo's go down. And how youth plays into this specifically for the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey is 27 years old and will turn 28 next July. And 28 years old for a running back in today's NFL is old, especially when you factor in how many touches CMC already has in his career and how much wear and tear there is on his body. He has over 1,700 career touches when you factor in both rushing attempts and receptions, and based on pretty much every other running back from this era, the decline for CMC is probably going to happen soon. Whether it's next year or in 2025, the 49ers have to have this in the back of their head, and not only is that something the 49ers are monitoring on a weekly basis, but Trent Williams is 35 and will be 36 next July. Everyone knows how good both CMC and Trent are, obviously, but at the end of their days as 49ers, or at least as we know them, are probably closer than you think. And this factors into why winning in today's NFL is almost impossible. And for the 49ers to have this star-filled of a roster to begin with, what insane benefit do they have right now that the Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, and Cowboys do not have? And it's a pretty big one. They don't have to pay their quarterback over $45 million per year. So for the time being, they can allocate all of the money Brock Purdy would be getting if he were a 5-year veteran into these other positions. And when you have a young quarterback playing at the level Brock Purdy is, obviously that's a good thing, and nobody would pass on having a good young quarterback in that window where they're getting next to nothing, which obviously benefits the franchise until it's time to pay them. But when you have a young quarterback like that, it's almost like a ticking time bomb where you know the bill is going to be due and you're going to have to pay the quarterback top dollar. And that's a big reason why it's so critical to win the time frame while he's on the team-friendly deal. And another thing about the 49ers, and this is referring back to CMC and Trent for a minute, if they don't win it this year, you may get one more good year out of each of them. And by the way, I hope I am severely wrong about CMC and hope he plays for at least another 5 healthy, great years. But in today's NFL, after that, John Lynch is going to be looking for the next cheap replacement, and that also factors into why it's so difficult to win. Teams most of the time would rather swing for a guy who's going to get paid $2 or $3 million per year versus an old veteran who is one snap away from a season-ending injury that's $25 or $30 million per year. Obviously, in CMC's case, it would be a little lower with the running back salary, but the point is, while yes, the rookie player could also have a season-ending injury, the impact of losing a $30 million per year player is a lot less than losing a $2 or $3 million per year player. This is, of course, excluding quarterbacks in this situation. Now, I believe in Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch wholeheartedly and think they will be successful for a long time, but I am also under the belief that it's now or never for them, meaning that if they don't win the Super Bowl this year, I think there's going to be this cloud that hangs over the team that basically says, yeah, we're good, but we're not going to win it all. And being in the playoffs consistently is a lot different than winning the Super Bowl. And another example of that relates to the title of today's video is what the Buffalo Bills have went through over the past few years. The 2021 season was, of course, the most devastating as they lost 42-36 in overtime and they gave up the infamous 13-second drive to have the game sent to overtime. But believe it or not, their record improved in 2022 as they went from 11-6 to 13-3. They had a ton of things happen to them throughout the season, whether it was Josh's UCL injury, Von Miller tearing his ACL, or, of course, the Damar Hamlin incident. And a lot of people think 2021 was their best year to win it all, and it's hard to argue against that. They're 6-6 at the time of this video release, and I don't think anybody thinks this team is going to win it all. The common thought with the 2023 Bills is that they can make noise if they can get into the postseason, but the likelihood of them, or anybody for that matter, winning 3 straight road games to get to the Super Bowl, especially in the AFC, is nearly impossible. Throw in some frustrating losses like the Denver loss at home, or the Patriots loss, or the Jets loss back in Week 1, all games you could argue Buffalo could have won, and that's the difference between them being 9-3 and them currently being 6-6. And I know we can do the change a few games here with every NFL team, but the point is, Buffalo talent-wise is a lot better than what their record currently shows. And there will be a video solely on the Buffalo Bills when their season comes to an end, basically asking what's next, because I don't like the road that's ahead for them. Yes, you can sell yourself on Josh, and that's easy because they have the quarterback position more than figured out. But outside of that, there's questions seemingly everywhere. Who's going to be the number 2 receiver behind Stefon Diggs next year? And regarding Stefon himself, he will be 31 years old next year and will not play forever. And speaking of not playing forever, Von Miller, from a football standpoint, is 34 years old and he tore his ACL last year at 33. He's not a young pup that can easily bounce back from this. And from 2 years ago, back to the 2021 Bills, this team went from a close divisional round exit against the Chiefs to getting beat by 3 scores by Cincinnati the following year in the divisional round to who knows what they're going to do this year. I think they are a playoff caliber team, but there's a chance they flat out miss the playoffs entirely. And to go back to the title of why winning in today's NFL is almost impossible, I would imagine both safeties, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, are both gone this offseason. And again, strictly from a football standpoint here, Von Miller has a cap hit of $23.8 million next year and will be 35 years old. And Buffalo can't cut him because it would cost the Bills $32 million. So from a roster building standpoint, this is a perfect example of how often you have to hit on your draft picks, and consistently. It doesn't help that 2022 first rounder Kaiir Elam is essentially a bust, and that he's been a healthy scratch a lot in 2023, and it doesn't help that Gabe Davis never took the next step as a number 2 receiver. So in a lot of ways in today's NFL, when you think you're about to take the next step, or that you are going to succeed for the next 4 or 5 years, that's a different lifetime in the modern NFL. And the Bills are going to reset the roster at a lot of positions this offseason, meaning get younger, and I don't want to rule them out of anything in 2024 because that is a full offseason away, but what I will say is it's not likely they're going to have to replace 8 or 9 positions this offseason and win the Super Bowl. And I think Buffalo is in a really weird spot from a roster building standpoint because I think they are a good team and they certainly have games where they play great and they play like they can win a Super Bowl, but they also have games where they can't get their head out of their ass. Buffalo headed into the 2022 regular season as a lot of people's preseason Super Bowl pick, myself included. And less than 2 years later, this franchise isn't in the dumps by any means, but the outlook is a hell of a lot more bleak than we all probably would have thought just 15 months ago. And when you head down I-79 and go to Pittsburgh, they're another team in a very tough situation. We've discussed this team at length on the channel, but if you were the Steelers this offseason, what do you do at quarterback moving forward? Truly. If you're a Steelers fan watching this, please let me know what you think the plan moving forward should be, because we are 25 games into Kenny Pickett's career, and he's thrown 13 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. I know the convenient thing is to say, oh well, he had Matt Canada, and that Canada didn't help him, and that part is true. There's times watching the Steelers during the Matt Canada era where you wish they had any sort of pre-snap motion to help Kenny identify anything pre-play or do anything to help him out, yet Canada didn't. But on the other side of the coin, there's plenty of times where Kenny misses reads that he shouldn't, or flat out throws passes he shouldn't, and I know Kenny is hurt right now, but I don't think he is the long-term answer. And Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Alex Highsmith do not want to hear that because they know that will severely hinder their chances of winning a playoff game in the next year or two, let alone a Super Bowl. And I know I've said this before, but in case anyone doesn't know, TJ Watt is in his 7th season and is now 29 years old and has never won a playoff game. And despite how good he is and how illustrious his career has been so far, don't you think he's sick of that? And if you are Omar Khan, the GM of the Steelers, do you give up on Kenny and try and trade multiple first-round picks for somebody? And if so, who? I know the Steelers have a winning record and can get to 9 wins this year, which would be another winning season for head coach Mike Tomlin, but I think they're in a bad position in today's NFL because they don't really have a direction. Sure, Mike Tomlin will go up to the podium and say the standard is the standard, and after losses basically say, we got to be better in every facet of the game, but being stuck in no man's land where they currently are is not a good place to be. They're always going to be better than the absolute worst teams in the league, and I really hate to sound this negative about the Steelers, but if they went into any of the contender stadiums as a wild card this year, guys, we know what the result will be. Even with a healthy Kenny, they can't put up points, and just being completely honest, I don't think they're on the path to winning a Super Bowl in the next few years. The business side of the NFL will always be there, as earning the second contract is arguably bigger than getting drafted to the NFL to begin with, and that obviously plays a huge part in why winning in today's NFL is almost impossible. It seems like yesterday that Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb in the 2020 class were drafted, yet we're at the time where this class will be free agents this offseason or are getting those contract extensions. We've seen 3 quarterbacks get $200 million plus extensions from this class in Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Herbert, and 3 receivers from this class, Jefferson, Lamb, and T. Higgins, are about to get paid in a big way. And pertaining to Jefferson specifically, all the talk this summer in the Twin Cities was if Jefferson and the Vikings were going to reach a long-term deal. And to date, they haven't, but obviously we expect that to change. And as simple as this sounds, NFL players are humans too, and they get sick of hearing about the contract extensions, and that takes a toll on guys, and that all plays into why it is so difficult to consistently win. Less than 12 months ago, Jefferson would go on to win the Offensive Player of the Year award, and just 3 months after that, he couldn't escape the contract extension discussion from, well, everyone. I know the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls between 2001 and 2018, and of course we had the Cowboys, 49ers, and Steelers dynasties in there too, but I would be extremely surprised if we have anything close to that in the next several years, referring to the 49ers or Patriots in this scenario. Kansas City has 2 in the past 4 years, and despite them winning the Super Bowl just 3 years apart, I think what defines how hard it is to win in today's NFL the best is there were only 13 players from the Chiefs' first Super Bowl over the 49ers still on the roster for the win over the Eagles, and that was in just 3 years, and it's even less now. In order to win a Super Bowl in today's NFL, there has to be a combination of a few things: a great coaching staff, a great team, and somewhere on the roster, and it could even be a few positions, young players on rookie-level contracts. Winning a Super Bowl is a next to impossible task, and any team that does it should throw one hell of a party. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 28% of people watching are subscribed, and it helps the growth tremendously. And until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.